She's the director of the Not One More Deportation campaign for the National Day Labor Organizing Network. And, you know, I think just looking at the series of videos that we have just watched, the things that we've discussed, it can seem overwhelming, right? Where do you begin? Because you can try to fight the private prisons. You can try to make the detention policy more humane. You can try to hope that the court system will be more just, or that the border crossing process is somehow also more humane, that raids will end and people don't have to live in fear. So for people that think that they might want to get involved, that they want to change something about this, but they don't know where to begin, what do you tell them?
I think a good place to start is, I think we're due for a chant very quickly. So, sin papeles, sin papeles, no papers, eso. That's a good place to start.
I like that.
And I think that for us, I think several things. So one, I think that good organizing and good campaign work, it's overwhelming. That's very clear. To me, one of the things I like to think about is that good campaigns and good organizing is kind of like a good weight loss diet. And what I mean by that is that it's gotta be, for it to be a diet that you're gonna try, or organizing that you're gonna do, you've gotta have action steps that are within your reach, right? And you've gotta see results. So I think organizing is like that too, particularly when you're facing something so stark as what's happening on the border and all of the things you've been hearing here tonight. And so for us, our compass and our guide has always been, what is the point of impact? Where is the bleeding point? And here in Arizona, and I think in many other places across the country, that was, I got snatched up in a raid, an ICE agent came to my door, and you start at that very human family by family level, which we say uno por uno, one by one. And that led us to a point where we're now asking, we're now forcing and calling on the president to take action. We're calling for changes at the federal level on detention conditions, but it started literally at these one by one cases. And I think that's always a good place to start, is where is the bleeding point in our community?
And do you have to choose an issue, right? Do you have to choose one specific area of it? I think there are some parts that are more easily digested for some segments of the population, right? You take an issue like Dreamers, and everyone can get behind this idea of, you know, kids were brought here from no fault of their own. They've grown up here. This is where they've been educated. This is their country, and they should get another chance, or a chance, we should say. But maybe they are not so open-minded towards their parents, right? And so, do people have to pick one specific area? Is it easier to try to zone them in?
I think for me, the way I look at it is that it's not my job. And I think that it's not my job to pick and choose who is included and who is excluded. It is our job as a social movement to demand everything for everyone. And I think that actually, you know, that's conventional wisdom oftentimes coming from, you know, the Beltway, or oftentimes elected officials. Don't ask for too much.
Piece by piece, right?
Piece by piece. And to me, it's like, you know, this whole idea that let's just take the lowest hanging fruit. Me personally, I want to shake the whole damn tree. And I think our community deserves it.
Well said. So talk to us about some of the methods that you've used that have actually been effective. If you've got a good diet trick, I want to hear it.
I'm trying. Well, I mean, some of it you've seen here with the amazing work that Arizona has done. I think the case-by-case work, a lot of online organizing, petitions, finding local targets, converging. We had one of the most successful things I think we've tried over the years is direct action and civil disobedience. I think Erika touched on this, is that once people who are directly affected, not just Dreamers, not just undocumented youth, but whole families and all spectrums of our community, from workers to students to folks from different countries, LGBTQ people, once people stormed the political stage, it changed the debate. And so I think that particular piece, and it took civil disobedience to get the attention.
But is there something that's required to force someone to make that transition from just being somebody who signs a petition online or retweets a hashtag to physically going out there and becoming a part of it?
I mean, that's what I think the organizing is, and there's different levels. You have some people where this is what I can do, I can retweet something, I can sign a petition, but when your family is, you're at risk of losing your family, if you're at risk of being deported, and a community stands behind you, it's a decision, that's a risk that an individual person takes, but it's a risk that's supported by community and through organizing. And I think that's been the crux and the nucleus of everything that we've been able to push on this issue has been through organizing and the respect and like that collective support of individual risk.
So we're going to be talking about this more with our next guest too, but I want your take. Where do you see the overlap, the intersectionality, if you will, of the push for immigration reform, more humane approach to it, and something like the Black Lives Matter movement, which also started with on-the-ground organizing, online organizing and mobilizing, and we saw the impact that that's had nationwide.
I mean, I think it's very, very important. If there's some key things that we take away from this Netroots, specifically for immigrant people, specifically for Latino and Latina people, is that right now the taste of detention is still fresh in our mouths. And we still see an empty seat at our dinner table of family members who have been taken from us, of our chosen and blood community. And we must remember, a cage is a cage. It doesn't end at detention. It is absolutely about this whole carceral state, prisons, jails, and it is absolutely connected, and it is a duty of the immigrant rights movement and the Latino community to stand up and stand with Black communities who have been fighting this and who are leading this fight. And I think we have to put to rest and put away this message point that we are not criminals. I think it is so damaging. It is not to talk about who in our community is criminal, but to finally recognize and call out it's this system. It's the whole system that's guilty as hell. We need to go with that. That's what's criminal.
So how do you take something like that and make sure that it has lasting momentum too? Not just striking while the iron is hot, while it seems like a good time and there's national attention devoted to it, but making sure that it carries through.
I think it's the relationship building right now. I think the movement building. People who have been fighting deportations, for example, in this case, know each other and see each other and do what I like to call the Chicano nod. We might be here in Phoenix, but there's people here from New Orleans, there's people here from Los Angeles, there's people here from New York City. These are critical places to make those connections because that's what takes us over the long haul. Because this work can be really lonely. And the last thing I'll say though is one good place to start to build those connections is tomorrow at the action that Puente, Arizona is having at noon. That's a good place to start.
Or Netroots in general,
yeah.
Good place to start. Marisa, thank you so much.
Thanks, thank you.